All right, so welcome, Alicia. Thanks for joining Tricky's Chats.
Oh, pleasure to be with you, Trent.
All right, so obviously you're a writer, you're a poet, you're a broadcaster, and you were my uni teacher for the produced programs and the podcasting and radio side of it. Take us through your early years growing up.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. I had multi interests. I certainly was absolutely passionate about football and writing and art. So it's kind of, and also science. So I had these four things that I was really passionate about. And I knew that I wanted to get into communication somehow. And the audio side of things really interested me. So I got into radio quite young and performing and poetry. And somehow the world sort of collided in that I could combine my sport with my performances and broadcasting, and also my science interests with my art and my broadcasting as well. So it's like a little mixed pot of everything.
Yeah, and says you said you're a big fan of footy growing up. Who'd you back
Yeah.
for, and who was your favorite players, or even just favorite sports other than footy?
Oh, that's such a great question. I was obsessed with Hawthorn, and I barracked for Hawthorn because my dad barracked for St Kilda, and St Kilda lost all the time in the 80s. So he dragged me along to games. He never would take me to a Hawthorn game. He refused to. He hated them with a passion. But I would get myself there because I actually lived in walking distance from VFL/Arctic Park, and I could walk there with my friends. So I'd go on a Tuesday night when there was Tuesday night footy, or a Saturday game, and just go and see Hawthorn myself. So I grew up on it, in the era of, Dermot Brereton and
Yeah.
Tuck and Chris Langford. And, they were my complete, I was absolutely thought they were the bee's knees. I was probably, if you had to say one player, it was Johnny Platten. I just thought he was graceful, he was kind, and I just liked his form.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting at that time. You'd see Dermot Brereton warm up on the wing, and people would be watching him and not the game. And I'm sure that happened. I remember seeing that also with Trevor Barker when I was much younger, that sometimes the celebrities people got to watch when they were, going to the game, and they sort of became bigger than the game, and that just kept going and going. And now we don't see it so much. I think our eyes are sort of on the
More closed
oval rather
off.
than the wing. Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any passion for other sports as well?
Look, I do. I used to love. I lived in Japan for a little bit, and I loved baseball, but it's not something I've kept up with. So I love a lot of. I used to absolutely be obsessed with cricket. It was the only way I could talk to my dad because he was watching the cricket all summer. So you had to know the stats and everything. And I love playing a game. I love getting in and having a game of anything. But do I know the stats and facts about everything? No, it's like I'm promiscuous. I love all these different sports equally.
Yeah. So what was it like during your schooling years, and after that, did you go on to a uni degree, or take us through what that was like?
Yeah, so I knew I was interested in writing, and I did a diploma of professional writing and editing. I started a uni course that I never finished because at the time when I was performing and creating art shows and working as well, I toured. So I got to travel around the world with different shows, and I was always on one project to the next and working for arts organizations. And so I never quite finished uni, which I'm planning to do and have my foot in at that. So I've always been involved in different programs. But yeah, so I just did a diploma and a cert for in workplace training and assessment. So I've been lucky enough to be a TAFE teacher and be around writing. And I go into lots of schools. I do a lot of art and science projects in schools. And I also do a lot of poetry workshops in primary schools, high schools, and unis as well.
Yeah, and you're part of the ABC's ABC network and the TVs for the Sunday Arts and the ABC Breakfast team, and you're a regular guest member. How did you step foot into ABC, and what was the process and the guideline?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to be a Triple R breakfaster in 2015 after being on that station for over 13 years, which was really fun. I had a spoken word and writing show that focused on text. With the ABC, I was lucky enough to be a reviewer on RAF's Drive program for 10 or so years, and also produce programs here and there for Radio National. And I've been a guest over many, many shows. So I guess it was getting into community radio that got me to be with the ABC and to be around that. So yeah, I can't recommend that enough for anyone who's really interested in getting into radio, is to start with the community broadcasting. And Triple R was just such a great training ground, and met wonderful people there and learned so many skills that have stayed with me. And my continuing relationship with the ABC off and on is completely amazing, and so many great people there.
On that community radio and ABC radio, what do you think the big difference is between the two?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think that ABC has to cater to a broader audience in a lot of ways, and they have different charters. So Triple R need to play a certain amount of Australian music, have quite diverse and differing shows on their platform. ABC have to cater to sort of a wider market, a broader market, but they're very obviously, they both have independence, which is great. That's their similarities. And the thing too with the ABC or any commercial network is that they'll maintain a grid, whereas Triple R do turn over grids and try people out, the younger people coming up, and but they have a music focused program, whereas ABC is mainly predominantly talking. So yeah, but both have great cultures and really supportive environments.
Yeah, and you're the editor of the National Literacy Journey going down swinging for 7 years. How did you get into this, and how did you find your time being the editor?
Yeah, that was such a great time. As I said, I've been involved in so many different projects, and I was asked to be an editor of Going Down Swinging many years ago, and asked Adam Ford and Steve Grimwade to be part of that, and got to see what it's like behind the scenes. Because whenever, as a writer, I'd send work off to magazines, you can feel hurt about rejections, and you can, you can build I guess you have to build such a resilience when you're a writer or any kind of artist getting rejections and so forth. But being behind the scenes and seeing how a magazine's made, it is about taste, it is about timing, it is about just the zeitgeist at that moment. So it was really great to see the mechanisms behind a literary journal. And I just love writing so much, and obviously broadcasting, that it was just great to read people's work. And I did it for quite a while, but I really must admit I do like not editing at the moment, because it's so much work, and my absolute admiration for anyone who wants to do it.
Yep, and obviously you said poetry or writing was a big thing for you, and your poems have been featured in Best Australian Poems, Best Australian Science, and The Age, to name a few. You also spoken word at many venues, festivals, including the World Science Festival, Brisbane, Melbourne Festival, and Melbourne Writers Festival, to name a few. Yeah. What does poetry really mean to you? And is it nerve-wracking performing on these big stages, or do you thrive on it?
I never thrive on it. No, because I'm always nervous. I'm nervous getting on a bus. I don't think that some people absolutely just completely calm their nerves. I'm always nervous. And I think that does bring something to a performance. You never want to be comfortable, but it's also just a personal thing. I just get quite nervous because, it's something personal that I'm communicating, but it's also performing is one of those big things. I'm an introvert, which is really funny because I put myself in these really abnormal situations and being on the stage or talking to thousands of people. But I just love poetry because I just love words, and so that trickles down into, I like words about sport or words about science. I just like communication and really connecting with an audience. So I'm always nervous, and I'm always hoping that I connect with an audience. So
was there anyone you looked up to?
Oh,
sorry. Was there anyone
No,
you looked
no.
up to as a writer growing up that really persuaded you to get more into it?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I could ask you the same thing, and I'm sure that, at any given day, you'd have a different answer. I mean, I was really obsessed with lots of musicians and science communicators when I was younger as well. But there's a lot of local Australian poets I was really into before I started performing. And then when I did start performing and reading around town, I just can't tell you how amazing the Melbourne poetry community is. And then, of course, the broader Australian community and just literature in general. But favorite writers, that's so hard. I love poets like Bernie Jansen or Pio, who were really, stalwarts in the 80s and continue just to burgeon with their career now. Yeah, I loved Monty Python though. Isn't that funny? So many Australian roots, but I loved Monty Python, and I used to pick their scripts to bits and work out when they delivered the funny and their timing and their sort of really esoteric, surreal way of delivering things. So they were actually an inspiration.
Yep. And you're also a member of the Outer Sanctum podcast, where in 2017, you partnered with ABC alongside Emma Race, Shelley Ware, is it Rana Hassan? I'm going to go with that. Lucy Race, and author and podcaster, and also my teacher for last year, Nicole Hayes. Take us through what the podcast touches on and what have been the ups and downs and the struggles and stuff that's gone on during the time of recording this podcast.
Yeah, so we started in 2017 and there was only 6 of us, all Hawthorn supporters, which was quite funny. And so with the 6 of us, we decided that we wanted to talk about things that weren't always being talked about, and representation that wasn't exactly happening around us. Of course, there were absolute pioneers in broadcasting, that there were women in broadcasting, people of color in broadcasting, but it just wasn't as widespread as we'd like it. So we wanted to chat about the things that we wanted to chat about. And the reason that we were given sort of a bigger sort of emphasis and highlight was that it was around the time that Eddie Maguire, you may remember, talked about just jokingly, offhandedly drowning Carolyn Wilson. So we sort of talked about that, and then that became a national topic and sort of sprung, our careers sort of sprouted from there, because we were talking about something that really mattered. And to us, language is everything about sport, and that, that old saying, nothing about us without us. And so that we were really lucky. We then joined The Age for a little while. We were part of Eon sports broadcasting, and then we were at the ABC, which was fantastic, and we got to do a lot of things on Grandstand, and we were there for a couple of years, and now we're hosting with Acast, and we've burgeoned to 10 of us, and that was when we were at the ABC, and that sounds like a lot of people, but it's been incredible to have Shelley, Tess, Rana and Julia be part of it as well, because they add different voices, and it's never 10 of us at the same time, unless we're going to karaoke on a Friday night.
Would you say women in sport and broadcasting has made a big step? And do you think we're going in the right track?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, definitely. And I'd say absolutely, since 2017, with AFLW, of course, it's just gone leaps and bounds, and there are now so many podcasts. There's great women on TV and, of course, radio that are doing incredible work. So it is heading in the right direction, and we are listening. And AFLW showed us that we are completely and utterly thirsty for women playing sport, and that's just not in football, it's in all sports. And you build it, they will come. We absolutely are a nation of sports loving people, and I don't think that it matters whether it's AFLM or AFLW, that we're going to go see it. And I just am so proud and obsessed with the AFLW at the moment, and am enjoying women's sports everywhere.
So yeah, do you like the AFLW structure as it is right now? Is there room for improvement? And who's a player that you really enjoy watching from the AFLW?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There are so many, and that's the thing. Because Hawthorn, obviously, up until well, they haven't played yet in the AFLW. Of course, I love the VFLW team, but so not having my team in the AFLW, what I used to do was just follow players, and I'd be like, oh my God, that person from Collingwood or that person. There's just too many to name. I fell in love with every player. And I mean, I know Darcy Vesio is so prominent and so, she gets a lot of press, but she deserves it. She is just such a powerhouse
Definitely.
when she's playing. Yeah. And she's such a spirited and warm and kind person as well, and really funny. And I just admire her so much. But there's just so many. Every single team I would see go to the game, and I didn't know who I was going to go for. I had a kind of a soft spot for Collingwood, but even when I was Collingwood Melbourne,
Good
I'd be,
answer.
oh my God, Daisy's great, or you know, yeah. So I is there's always improvement to be made with the AFLW, and over the years there's been certain things I'm like, oh, the conferences or whatever. It's like, oh, geez, I'd love everyone to play everyone, but I think it's going in the right direction, and I think that AFLM can improve as well. So it's always changing. It's always
Always room for
ephemeral.
improvement.
Yeah.
Alongside fellow podcaster Nicole Hayes, you also edited an anthology of footy stories called The Outer Blanking 2016 with a list of incredible writers, and you also put together a footy girl guide to the stars of the
Yeah.
2017, showcasing some star players on the inaugural AFLW season. What was it like making these books?
It was really great. So From the Outer was really wonderful. It came out in 2016. So it was just the year before the AFLW, and we weren't even sure. It was before the announcement actually of the AFLW, because you may remember that it was brought forward. It was always sort of touted for 2020, and then they said no, it's going to happen next year. So these stories were incredible writers. Christos Solkis, who just won the Melbourne Prize for Literature, and you've got Anna Spargo Ryan or Angela Pippos. There's just so many, Sam Pang, incredible writers in this book. So it was great to hear literature about footy, and I can't recommend that book enough. And the Footy Girls Guide was interesting because it was about all the key players of the AFLW, and I wish it didn't have the title 2017, because all those players are still playing that we
Yeah.
featured. And it did really well, but I just wish it could be out there. But that was for kids, and it was lovely, and the girls and boys really lapped that up.
Now, looking towards the future, what are you hoping to continue doing in the broadcasting or anything really region?
It's always hard to think about your life, isn't it? I would love to continue to make great radio and to create stories that were really interesting, and absolutely create more and more art in the science art field. But I love broadcasting, so talking about it, I hope to continue talking sports every now and then. Just audio making, and also listening to the future generation of broadcasters as well, like yourself. I really enjoy listening. I listen to like 20 or 30 podcasts over a
It's
month
so good
period.
podcasts. Take up a lot of my
there's,
time.
there's so many. Yeah, so the future is in great hands.
All right, well, I'd like to thank you for your time on joining Tricky's Chats, and let's hope you get that uni degree finished, hey?
Exactly, thank you so much.
No worries, thank you.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't really